Yeah.
मेरा last day है. I'm retiring today.
Why are you retiring so early? I mean, what do you plan to do next?
Oh, well, I plan to travel the world and spend some quality time with my family. Basically, live my life.
But what about the money?
Take a sip. Not this sip, silly. SIP, Systematic Investment Plan. Every month you commit to invest a small portion of your salary. Your salary increases, so should your investment.
But where do I invest? I don't understand about stocks, markets, etc.
That's what mutual funds are for.
I have to invest every month?
Yeah, you have to be disciplined and patient about it. So, young girl, what's your plan?
My plan is to plan for my last day at work.
Start an SIP today because it's never too early to invest. An investor education initiative by L&T Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Organizations must accelerate their journey to become a digital enterprise. Not only to deliver new levels of efficiency,
online?
differentiation, and growth, but to survive.
Yes.
With over 30 years of leadership, we are Persistent, a global solutions company delivering digital business acceleration and enterprise modernization. We imagine new experiences, revenue streams, and business models for a fully digital world. We engineer tomorrow's products and platforms for enhanced agility and growth. We modernize applications and processes to maximize resiliency. And we manage operations and systems to reduce costs and facilitate growth. We do this all by leveraging our expertise and the latest technologies, including cloud, AI, and automation. Our boutique mindset and enterprise scale, combined with a diverse, open, and innovative partner ecosystem, provide significant flexibility to our clients. We bring together our services, partner capabilities, and industry accelerators to build the right solutions with faster time to market and greater value. We are the industry leader in customer excellence, completely committed to your success. We are Persistent. Get started with us now.
Excuse me, what will you do with your first salary?
So I would like to present my first paycheck to my father.
I'll buy a laptop for my younger brother.
I will save some money and with the rest I'll get an AC for my dad's room.
I'm going to start a life insurance policy. I think it's very important for my family's security.
While investing in the stock market, it's important to learn first. Cut the guesswork. Learn all about stock market from experts. Sign up for courses that suit you. Attend webinars. Minimize the risk factor. elearnmarkets.com. Check it out.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Entrepreneurship Cell IIT Kharagpur, I heartily welcome you all to the first panel discussion of Local Startup Meet 2021, presented by L&T Financial Services, co-sponsored by Cisco, and brought to you by Business Standard. Established in 2006 with the support of Science and Technology Entrepreneurs Park, Entrepreneurship Cell IIT Kharagpur has always worked to promote the startup culture and inculcate entrepreneurial knowledge among the enthusiasts. I'm Shriyam Pandey, along with Ayush Kumar, associate members at Entrepreneurship Cell IIT Kharagpur, and today we have with us 6 highly esteemed panelists from the world of startup. Today's panel discussion will be on the topic Success of Startups Amidst Fierce Competition from Already Existing Industry Giants. We all know that no startup has started with the biggest consumer base in the market right off the bat. Every single business started from the bottom and worked its way up. Hence, in the panel, we'll get deeper into the world of startup competition, how important it is to care about existing competition. Do you need to be a market leader, or the market is big enough for more than one players?
So let us start by introducing our panelists. First up, we have Mr. Vishal Chaudhary, co-founder at Zetwork. Zetwork operates a business-to-business marketplace for manufacturing items. It recently turned into a unicorn in 2021. Mr. Vishal is a certified professional in supply chain management and has also built an extensive experience in his domain during his stints at Rivigo and ITC Limited. He is also a 2010 IIT KGP alum with his master's degree in chemical engineering. We are really excited to have you, sir. Please speak a few words to the aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience.
Thank you, Ayush. I think I'm doing a program with ESL IIT Kharagpur after a very, very long time. So I graduated in 2010 as chemical engineer, dual degree, BTech and MTech. And very happy to be here and speaking to all of you.
Yeah. So, okay, next up, we have Mr. Prateek Gauri. He's a serial Indian social entrepreneur, investor, public speaker, and writer. He serves as the India president of Fifth Element Group, a global impact management consultancy. He has been awarded various recognitions such as Entrepreneur 35 Under 35, ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow, GreenBiz, Go Global 30 Under 30, Asia 140 Under 40, Most Influential Leaders, and many others. So please enlighten us and our audience with a few words.
I think Mr. Prateek has not joined us yet. We can move to the next speaker.
Yeah, it's an honor to be amongst all of you, and very, very excited to be amongst all of you alongside all the amazing speakers and such a beautiful audience. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So next up we have Mrs. Vandana Suri, founder at Taxi, which is an initiative that makes travel safer for women and children through women-driven cabs, while also empowering underprivileged women through vocational training in driving and soft skills. She has won the World Bank's SDG and HERS Award and has also been awarded the Action for India Best Indian Social Enterprise Award. She is a visionary who ensures that she draws a path not just for herself, but for a lot more women out there. We are really honored to have you with us, ma'am. Please speak a few words with us and the audience.
You're on mute, Vandana.
Ma'am, you're not audible, ma'am. Maybe try. Okay, so we'll introduce ma'am later on. So, yeah, let's now move on to Mr. Tushar Kansal, who is also the moderator for today's panel. So he's the founder and CEO of Consultancy Ventures. Over the years, Mr. Tushar has arranged funding for startups and growth stage companies in diverse sectors like EdTech, FinTech, consumer B2C, B2B, and many other sectors. Mr. Tushar is also a venture advisor for Loyal VC, the INSEAD-led Canadian VC fund, having a core portfolio of over 200 investments in more than 35 countries. He's also a partner with GSD Venture Studios, a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. So we are really excited to have you with us. Please enlighten the audience with your few words.
Thank you. Thank you. Always happy to be back among students. And I run Consultancy Ventures. We are into investment management and especially into venture capital and equity fundraise. My background has been in Big Four consulting at Deloitte and Touche. Have been part of the team at Brand Capital, and also headed treasury at the Russian telecom company Sistema's India unit. Raised $2.5 billion for them, and was CFO with a logistics company owned by the American private equity fund Guggenheim Partners. I've been awarded Business Leader of the Year in Investment Management this year by the Asian African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Looking for an exciting discussion today, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir. So next up, we were supposed to have Mr. Vishal Gondal, sir, here, who is a veteran social entrepreneur, widely regarded as the father of the Indian gaming industry. Unfortunately, he could not be with us today due to an emergency. So last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Rahul Prasad, co-founder and CTO of Bobble AI Technologies. Starting from his works on Bobble AI, an app that allows users to turn selfies into stickers, and another app, Indic, which helps distribute stickers and much more. Mr. Rahul has continuously worked on pushing himself to achieve better. His name is included in Forbes 30 under 30 list, Fortune's 40 under 40 list. For his works is the fruition of his dedication. Today, Bobble boasts over 50 million plus users, as well as a list of partners that includes Xiaomi, Foxconn, Apple, and Amazon. So please speak a few words with our audiences. So I think sir isn't connected right now. Maybe some network issues, so we'll introduce him later on. So Vandana ma'am, is your mic working now? It's not working. Okay, so ma'am, can you please try using another browser or trying to reopen the browser again? So while Vandana ma'am does that, so I would like to tell the audience that we are open to questions as well. So you can put your questions in the Q&A tab, and we'll come back to them after the panel discussion. So now I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Tushar to initiate the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Entrepreneurship Cell, IIT Kharagpur. It's been exciting many years seeing a raft of interesting and amazing startups come out of the IIT Kharagpur alumni. And, seeing the innovation is very heartening. And thank you, Vandana Suri ji, Vishal Chaudhary ji, Prateek Gauri ji, and Rahul Prasad ji for coming here for this interesting discussion. So I would frame this discussion under four broad heads. The first is competitions and challenges in different sectors as to your personal experience. Then competitions in the Indian market compared to other parts of the world. Then competition as a learning and growth opportunity for startups and ways to tackle them. And lastly, how is the competition in the world of social enterprises? So coming to Vishal first. Vishal, it's really very good to have you here today. Give our viewers a sense of your startup journey and inspirations behind it.
Yeah, so when I left Kharagpur in 2010, I got placed with ITC. So I was working at ITC for good 5 years. And but 5 long years, right? I mean, work at a company like ITC for 5 years, it's just too long because it's fairly large organization, processes are pretty well set. Machine is very properly oiled, and there's not really a lot that you can do there. But thankfully, then I took the plunge in 2015 and entered the startup world. So my first gig was with a company called Revigo in Gurgaon, and got burnt out in 2 years. And then what came out of that burnt out phase was I started another company because I didn't know what else to do. And what ZWork does is we are about 3-year-old company, and what we do is we help manufacturing supply chain become more reliable and transparent. So what do I mean by that? If you see, there are a lot of items in our country which get manufactured. From the simplest of the things to the most complex of the items. For example, the juicer grinder in your kitchen, the television in your house, the light bulbs in your house, now smart bulbs in your house, to wind farms, to solar panels. Every goddamn thing is manufactured in India or somewhere else. But where we found the gap was that whilst there are many people who require these manufactured goods, and there are many more people who manufacture these goods, there was a big black box which existed in between. For example, if today you have to go and find out a juicer manufacturer in the country, I mean, it's a little difficult to find out people who make 700 watt motor wala juicer, which can also grind turmeric. There is no classified where you can find that. And likewise for any other item, broadly speaking, just for example. And what we solve for customers on one end is for discovery. You know what you have to make, but you don't know where to get it made, or you have to reach in a very localized area where you have historically been working with vendor A for donkey years, but you don't know there's another vendor B 500 kilometers away who's far more efficient, right? So the first problem that we solve for our customers is discovery of vendors who meet the pricing, capability, capacity, as well as geographical requirements. The second problem that we solve for the customer is, of course, fulfillment. Just finding a vendor is not enough. Customers also want the deliveries to happen within a defined time frame. So that's where we get into the whole. We become part of the whole transaction, and we help in ensuring that the fulfillment happens as per the terms of the contract. And the third thing where we help them is in pricing. Generally discovering price of new products that they want to do in India. They want to launch abroad. They want to launch in a particular geography. So broadly, these three things is why we exist and what we solve for our customers, why our customers come back to us. On our suppliers, what we do is, like I said, it's a fairly fragmented market. There are very many suppliers manufacturing different items. And suppliers are limited by their reach, by their marketing reach, are limited by access to capital and some of these other issues because of which they cannot grow. So what we do is when we are able to give visibility of orders to these supply partners, they are able to, we have seen instances where a manufacturer, where a supplier, where his plant utilization was averaging at about 20-25%, it has gone up to 70-75%. Because ZWork is that channel from which you get orders from multiple areas and multiple customers. It's not like there's only one customer that I have 10 juicer requirements a month. So yeah, broadly, I just thought I'll clear that out. I mean, why we exist in the manufacturing supply chain in the country. And Tushar, your question was, I'm sorry, I just lost, I forgot.
I just wanted, you to tell the viewers about your startup journey and the inspirations behind your startup journey.
Yeah. So inspiration, I can tell you. So I have a family member who had a fabrication shop. So all of you understand and a bunch of people will be from mechanical. We have a good old fabrication lab in Kharagpur. I don't know if it's still there. But, the fabrication is a big manufacturing activity that happens in India. All the big river, the girders, the bridges that you see over the sea, all the big buildings that you see, a lot of steel gets fabricated in the country. And the fabrication if for you to become a fabrication supplier, you just need land, nothing else. So entry barriers are extremely low, which is why there are like millions of fabrication suppliers in the country. So I happen to have a family member who was a fabricator himself in Trichy. And because he was in Trichy, he was working closely with a company called BHEL, which has a lot of outsourcing requirements. And when I was working with him, I realized that in spite of the great capabilities that he had built over 10 years, he wasn't really able to access customers beyond BHEL. He wasn't really able to go to an L&T or go to a GE Power or go to some of these other companies, who have very similar requirements. And that was a trigger point, that how can we have a horizontalized platform where both the suppliers and customers are able to discover each other, right? So that was the starting of the idea. And the idea was a very software driven, right? That we'll have a platform where discovery will be an important feature and the capabilities of the suppliers will be mapped and all that. But very soon when we went with these platforms to the customers actually wanted fulfillment also along with it, right? So I mean, you just keep hearing the customer meeting after meeting, and that's when we pivoted from a pure platform play to a managed supply chain place, where we ourselves become a large vendor to the supplier, to the customer, and we have 5,000 vendors behind us who are helping me manage this supply chain. And so the inspiration was that gentleman in my family, right? Because still before that, I was making Ashirwad chili powder, turmeric powder in ITC for 5 years in air-conditioned factory, where the projects were more like, how can you improve the grammage? How can you reduce the grammage of powder in the pouch from 498 grams to 497.6 grams? So the inspiration came from that gentleman in my family, and
Very interesting, Vishal. What a way to begin our discussion. Coming to Prateek. Prateek, please enlighten our audience about your startup journey and your inspirations, and let me welcome you today to this interesting panel discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Tushar, and great to be amongst all of you. And very well spoken, Vishal. That was inspiring. So my startup journey began very young. So I started when I was 16, and the reason was that I had a crazy idea in my head, which was to impact 1 billion people positively, because I always felt that I came from a very privileged background where I was able to attend school, get educated, eat the food I want, drink clean water, and have basic facilities. But I thought a lot of people around me did not have those facilities. So it was a simple goal. And when I started reading and researching about how I can achieve this overarching mission or the goal I had, the only option I had was to build companies which can actually achieve those goals and not work for other companies which are probably not aligning with the vision I had. So in the last 15 years, I've been trying to promote a concept, a fifth industrial revolution, which is about proving the thesis that you can make more money if you do more good to the world. So it's like financially incentivizing practices which are aligning to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. When I started my journey, it used to be Millennium Development Goals, and now it is SDGs. So I started my first company in edutech, second in health tech. I built 8 companies, mostly in edutech, climate tech, renewable, solar, wind. And while I was doing all of that in the last few years, I realized that I was able to impact tens of millions of people, generate tens of millions of dollars, and was able to prove the thesis through traditional businesses. But I still wasn't able to actually achieve the goal, which was obviously to impact 1 billion people. And this year, I actually ventured into blockchain, and I'm trying to now. I just started a company called Firechain. So we have our own layer 1 chain. We are competitors to Ethereum and Solana. And what we are trying to do is solve the problem of sustainability in the blockchain space. We started 7 months back. We are just about to close our 21.5 million round, the first round that we're doing. We have some of the best venture capitalists backing us. We have Techstars and a lot of people. And then what we're trying to solve is we are trying to transition the current world, which follows a for-profit paradigm, to for benefit paradigm in the age of fifth industrial revolution. So it's pretty much, having a blockchain, and any business that is being built on top of us automatically becomes sustainable. So it's like smart contracts. So what excites me is mostly, technology. How can you use technology to solve social challenges, which can be economically rewarding, but the basis of everything could be, how do you solve social challenges? So as I said, my inspiration has always been entrepreneurs like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, and when I looked at their careers when I was 16, I clearly figured out that the only way to achieve my vision and the goals I had was to start up and not for work for a company. Although, like Vishal said, he worked for ITC, I did work for Tata's. But that was just not 5 years, that was just 1.5 years. And I got so bored in 1.5 years, it would be equal to 15 years or 20 years.
Lucky
I
you.
realized it's not taking me anywhere near to the overarching goal I have of impacting people. And I quit, and then I got back to my journey of being in the startup space. So it's been exciting. I think one big inspiration, or one big what gives me chills still, is you can be an entrepreneur for like 30 years, but there's so much to learn. Like every time I meet people, I learn so much, and I don't think that learning can ever happen if you're working in a Fortune 500. And nothing against big companies, but I think if you really want to learn and impact and create impact, I think the best way is to actually solve challenges which through startups. That's what I'm currently doing right now. And yeah, so this is pretty much about a little bit about the journey I've had.
Amazing to hear, Pratik. Such a wide variety of experience, and you have done it like in almost all these sectors. Coming to Vandana, you there, Vandana? Are you able to is solve your mic problem? No, I don't think she's.
You should tell me that. I'm here speaking. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, yeah, we are
Oh
able to hear
God,
you.
this
Great.
is sad.
No, we are able to hear you very well now. So,
Oh,
just to,
great.
yeah, welcome back. So, just to start,
Take off my video.
yeah, okay, sure, that works. So, just, what would you like to tell the audience about your startup journey and the inspirations behind it, for the audience to hear?
So I'm an ex-investment banker, and I've become a cabbie out of choice. Okay. I mean, leaving investment banking to start a taxi company and becoming a taxi driver. I think that itself is a story we all, everybody gets wondering about. So I was just like any other woman in the country, I was constantly facing safety issues while on travel. And there was this particular incident of rape in an Uber in Delhi that kind of brought in the headlines. And the lady said, you know what, if there were women driving me, this would not have happened. And that was it. It was just that cry for help which made me switch over from a very cushy job into taking up something so challenging, and getting more women to join in with me. We started training the marginalized communities in driving for 6 to 8 months, let them become professional drivers. They had never sat in a car in all their life, and today they were going to drive clients. And we were alternate moms to kids, so we were dropping kids to schools and tuitions, 600 children a day, every single day, keeping them abuse free, office going women, and late night airport drives, and actually enjoying what we were doing. I mean, we were having giggly sessions and ABCDs in our car. I don't think any drive would have been more interesting than this. Surprisingly, being the small organization that we are, we also got recognized by the World Bank. This came like an Oscar to us from nowhere. We had no idea that we were being watched by such a big organization. Out of 188 countries, we were out there representing India, and we won it. So it's been a good journey. It's been an amazing journey for me being an entrepreneur. I don't think there's anything more exciting about in life than really facing this, somebody was just saying that you never stop learning. And I think that's what keeps me awake every night. Hey, let's do this more, let's do something else. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
Very, very interesting, Vandana. my wife has been a career investment banker, and I can vouch, being a mom and doing a job in itself are two awards. So, my congratulations to you for pursuing what your heart really wants. Coming to uh, coming
Yes.
to Rahul, welcome, Rahul. Welcome to the talk discussion today. Uh, why don't you please let the viewers know about your startup journey and inspirations behind it?
Cool. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are very much audible.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tushar, for giving me this opportunity. Do you mind if I use Hindi or English?
I don't mind.
What
The
about
op-
our viewers?
I don't think they will mind as well if you speak English. I don't think they will mind as well.
Cool. अपना स्टार्टअप रीजनल लैंग्वेज पे फोकस कर रहा है तो मेरी जर्नी स्टार्ट हुई 2002, around 2002. It was .com boom going on. I was still in school and I wanted to earn some pocket money, and I was very good at making websites. So I started creating websites, and I got this opportunity to create this website for someone who owned an industry in the city of Jamshedpur, and he gave me money. I thought it's a very good way to earn my pocket money, and this was happening during my school time. I was just in class 11 at that time, so I thought it's a very good opportunity to earn money. I started learning, I started making. Then I partnered with few people in Jamshedpur itself to do marketing for me. They used to go to industries, they used to bring projects, and I used to create websites for them. So this is how the spark began. When I went to college, and I still continued doing that. After I graduated from college, I properly set up a company, and I continued doing the consultancy services, creating website, web applications, e-commerce. I had built from a 2-member team to a 15-member team, but then I realized that it's not growing up. It's not growing up as I am, uh, as I dreamt it to grow up. You don't want to grow in a linear manner. You want to grow in exponential manner. What I used to do, I used whatever I used to earn, I used to put back into the company, and it was expanding slowly. दुकान की तरह चल रहा था. And I realized that this is not the way to grow, because I'll be investing more and more time, more and more money into it. I'll still not earn anything. While my brother was in IIT Delhi, and he he told me about this concept of getting fund, raising fund, and then starting on the product, and then growing up in an exponential manner. So I thought it's a very good idea. So I left what I was doing, I wrapped everything, then I moved to Delhi, and I started this company with Ankit, Touch Talent. From that was growing quite good. We had many users, but over there we realized that what we wanted to do was create a huge social media just like Facebook, but for creative people. But we realized that professionally creative people are very less. Only 2% of people are professionally creative, but and we knew that everyone is creative. Why only 2% of users should be our audience? So we thought we should pivot, and we pivoted to a project where we saw that number of mobile users are increasing, and we wanted to enable everyone to become creative, to show off their creativity. And the concept of bobble was born over there. So anyone can take his selfie, convert it into an avatar, and do whatever they want with the avatar and share it with their friends. From there, we realized that people are using it on their own conversation. So we thought, let's enrich the conversation. So we created the keyboard so that they can share their stickers, their avatars very easily. And then we realized that it's a huge problem. Typing was a very big problem at that time, because there was English, there was Hindi, there was nothing such English. But we, as Indians, use English, Bengalis, Tamilis. So we use Roman characters, but we type in Hindi. So, and if you would have used Swift key or Google didn't have Gboard at that time, there was Google Indie keyboard. Then it would autocorrect it to something which is in English. So people used to shut down their autocorrect so that they can type properly, and they used to make many mistakes. So we figured this is a huge problem. We started solving for that. We came up with this concept of English on our keyboard, and people and everyone loved it. In India, we became viral. In fact, even till date, we are the most loved keyboard in the world, I would say, because our rating is even more than Microsoft Swift keys and
I think we lost Rahul there amongst a very, very interesting discussion. I think we'll move forward to the next question, and coming back to Vishal. Vishal, uh, we understood your move from ITC, then to Webigo, then Zetwork, and how you just caught the problem by its horns. And so, I see that when it comes to competitions, you have a huge competitor base. I mean, it can be like any platform. It can be India Mart or any fulfillment led platform. So, uh, give us a sense about your startup journey and market competitions in the supply chain and manufacturing industry.
Yeah, quite interestingly, we didn't have any competition per se in terms of a new age company, right? And now we see a bunch of them which have come up. But when we started off, we didn't really have a new age company trying to do what we were doing, and in a way, all our suppliers and all our customers were a competition to us, right? Uh, and yes, all our suppliers were a competition because they could manufacture, we could manufacture, and there was this always this fear of imbalance being created if the customer sort of short circuits at work and goes directly to the supplier, and so we didn't really have to face competition in very early days. But as our suppliers have also, and especially driven by this whole lockdown, and they've become a little bit more digital than how they were pre-lockdown. We do face competition from, and plus a bunch of new age companies have also, because I mean manufacturing has sort of become sexy again, and a bunch of new age companies have come here, and we do face competition today. But the way we look at competition is because this whole manufacturing is more than $100 billion market, right? So it's never going to be a one player takes all sort of a situation here.
Right.
More the competition means we are more at the edge of our seat. We are more in locking in our customers with better services. We are more. It means more of having strengthening of the supplier ecosystem that we have, and having a far better product than anyone else who has. So has competition pushed us in that direction? Yes, I think we anyways were motivated to build it, but I would say by a few degrees, competition has certainly pushed us in what we would have done in over a 1 year. Probably we do it over 6 months now, looking at the way competition is panning out. And yes, I mean that's all on competition.
Great. I liked, I just loved the way you said it, that, your own product and the quality of that is your greatest competition. So that's really amazing insight. Coming to Prateek, Prateek, you started at 16 and you went on the impact side, uh, built 8 companies, and this year into blockchain. Uh, and I read somewhere, I think there are around 10,000 cryptocurrencies, if I'm not mistaken. And you are doing work on the humanity side, the impact side. So which all companies do you see as competition, and what strategies can a new startup employ for competitor analysis?
Yeah, so very, very good question. So when you see cryptocurrency and when you see blockchain, right? So the biggest challenge that so look, Elon Musk, everybody knows he holds like billions in crypto, but the only reason he doesn't come out and openly advocate it is just because it's not sustainable. It doesn't align to his vision of Tesla, right? So and the what we've built now is we are competitors to. So I don't want to get technical because a lot of people would not understand it, but layer one chains are like Solana, Ethereum. So most of the layer one chains, they have an infrastructure on which layer twos and other protocols are built, like DeFi and all the protocols are built. So what we've done is we have made the layer one. So we are a layer one protocol, which is sustainable. So the way we have made it is we scrap data from over 600 ESGs. We scrap data. We tokenize the entire United Nations 17 sustainable development goals. There are 17 global goals like health, tech, climate, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, smart cities. So we tokenize all of that, and then we financially incentivize practices. So every blockchain actually follows a consensus mechanism. So we have our own proprietary consensus, which is called proof of hire.
Follows the consensus mechanism.
Which what it does is it basically financially rewards you if you're using sustainable practices. So if you're, for instance, if there are two companies, one of them is using it has a better carbon footprint, then that company would have a better score in our consensus, which means it would be rewarded by the layer one. That is why all the layer twos and threes that are built on us automatically become sustainable. Now, what we have done is we are an ecosystem which basically has its own chain. So we have our own blockchain, we have our own exchange. So we are, so like, you know, most of the Indian exchanges like WazirX, CoinDCX, we will only, our exchange will only support cryptocurrencies which are sustainable. Otherwise we will not let them trade. We will not let our exchange trade currencies which are not sustainable. So that is why we have our own exchange which we just acquired. It's called Coins91. Then we have our own wallet. So mostly right now people use MetaMask, and we have our own wallet which is again follows a sustainable paradigm. And we have our own NFT and metaverse marketplace. And I think you might have seen that everybody is now doing NFTs and stuff. So we only support NFTs which are again trying to amplify the message of sustainability, and it only has icons. So we are collaborating with some Hollywood superstars. We are collaborating with some Fortune 500 companies, but we are only promoting sustainable practices. So what we are ideally doing is we are creating an entire ecosystem in which people will be joining, and the ecosystem will help move the current world, which follows a profit paradigm, to a new world, which will follow a for benefit paradigm. And when the ecosystem becomes powerful in itself in the next couple of years, we will be able to impact 1 billion people positively. That's the goal.
Very nice, really nice, Pratik. There is a crypto called Neom, Neos, and they are also into impact. So, I can see the change which they are bringing, and I'm sure the change which you are bringing is tremendous. So, my congratulations on that. Coming to Vandana, we have seen startups like Shiro's, who are bringing together a very well-trained workforce in the senior management and middle management level. And there was a accelerator which I used to interact with. It's a woman-only accelerator based in the Middle East, and I used to really
Okay.
love what they are doing. So, my question to you is that in a world where high profit margins and valuations are the primary goals of startups, how can a socially conscious
Mhm.
startup with goodwill as its primary motive survive?
The same way I'm surviving since 6.5 years now. I guess. Yeah. So I think a social startup looks at more than just valuations. The motive for us surviving itself is, the fire is just totally different, the way we interact here. Uh, every time I look at so for your understanding statistics, okay, 53% of the children face sexual abuse. 53% is my child or the next door neighbor's child. It's that high. As far as women using public transport, 91% feel unsafe in public transport. Right. So the need is beyond making a quick buck. Okay, the need is so high, the motivation levels are so high, it's beyond just a valuation game. Value will be created, definitely. For even to put into perspective, with a 133 crore population that we are at, and 50% of us being women, there are hardly 300 possibly women drivers professionally in the whole country. So, I mean, the market is so huge, and it's a matter of time where such a nascent industry, which is making such a strong social change, will pick up the speed. But these are a longer gestation startups. These are not something which you will roll over in 2 years and 3 years. It needs social capital, it needs patient capital. Uh, and honestly, investing with us itself is like, finding the right person to marry. I think investors and startups are a marriage game more than anything else. So we're also waiting for the right thing. But I think beyond that, um, the way to work is to be sustainable ourselves and not depend on financial investments into us. That's why we made our work in a way that we're already profitable. So while the rest of the cab companies are still bleeding, Ola and Uber, I don't know when they will see the profits. We work on smaller sizes but sustained sizes, and then start moving into like a franchise model or a hub and spoke model to take it ahead. It's a slow growth. It's like farming. I cannot see this developing overnight as well. But yeah, I don't think we are running behind valuations. The value that we are bringing, I don't think we can put a value to it at all.
Sure. Um, I'm 100% sure, if you were to get your business evaluated by a impact-based fund, he would already offer you something in hundreds of millions, if not tens of millions. So what I'm trying to say is you are already from the impact size.
भेजो यार से भेजो.
Right. Thank you so much for those words, Vandana. Coming to Rahul. Rahul, you started out early, you learned raising funds, and then you went into the talent space early. And now you are into a sort of a consumer space with Bobble. So, what are the key attributes that make a SaaS or a tech platform stand ahead or stand out from the pre existing products?
Okay. So when you mention pre-existing products, so in my case, are you referring to Google's Gboard and Microsoft
Yeah,
SwiftKey?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool. So one principal rule is, if you're creating the same thing which has been created and a lot of users are already using it, then why are you creating it again? You are not going to win a game where large players are playing with huge resources. You're not going to win on the same game. What you need to do is you need to create your own game. That's what we did. We created our own game. We are not a utility. Bobble Keyboard is not a utility. Gboard is a utility. You use Gboard for typing. You use SwiftKey for typing. Any other keyboard, you use it for typing. Bobble is a platform. I'll explain how it works. So we call it conversation media platform. Think of it next to what social media marketing and social media platform is. So we are enabling users to become more expressive. Imagine you are saying चल कॉफी पीने चलते हैं, and our keyboard will understand the intent. We have an on-device AI engine which understands the intent on device itself, and then it prompts you, why don't you share a sticker? Sticker will create a sticker will have your own head in it. It will have a coffee cup. You will be wearing a t-shirt, and the same text will be written over there. It will not be a static. Let's go for a coffee. It will be चल coffee पीने चलते हैं. Very expressive. you'd like to a user, we are enabling user to become very expressive. On the other hand, what we are doing is we are enabling brands to become part of the conversation. So brands can now imagine the same coffee cup have a Starbucks logo in it. Imagine the T-shirt that you're having that you're wearing has a Nike logo in it. So this way, it acts like a platform. We are enabling brands to become part of the conversation in a very non-intrusive way, and we are enabling user to become more expressive. So this gives us opportunity to generate revenue. Just being a keyboard, it's very difficult to generate revenue through advertisements. Although we have advertisements as well, so we have multiple revenue sources. One is advertisement, another is CMM, conversation media marketing. So we positioned ourselves in such a way that now in our game, Google cannot compete with us. In our game, Microsoft cannot compete with us, because now we can partner with OEM. We can do revenue share. There are a lot of opportunities to deal with OEMs. While what Google and Microsoft does, they give them penny, and they ask them to preload their keyboard. What we are giving is an opportunity to earn more and more while satisfying their users as well. So when you think differently, you don't have to play the same game. You have to create your own game, and then only you will be able to. Then there won't be any competition because it's a different game, right?
Great. Really, very well explained, Rahul. So you create your own game and compete with your own product. So that's the game you are into. That explains the competition very well. Thank you so much. Coming to Vishal again, Vishal, you said those golden words that you don't have any competition in the new age company. So, uh, how susceptible is the Indian supply chain industry to technology platforms? So we have seen Udan came in, and we have seen many which not many, some which tried escrow to create an escrow mechanism for facilitating smooth transactions. So a lot of technology platforms like Alibaba and Amazon, and so how susceptible is the Indian supply chain industry to technology platforms?
Yeah, yeah. If I limit your question to B2B supply chain, I wouldn't comment about B2C, right? So B2B
Sure.
is which we deal with. B2B supply chain has received very little love from the tech world, right? I mean, most of the manufacturers use the most advanced technology that they use even today is MS Excel 2013, right? So, but having said that, it's fertile ground. It's absolutely fertile ground, because what we are also seeing, a lot of our manufacturers, second generation, where father has set up the whole infrastructure and has been doing, say, fabrication. I'm just coming back to that example. The second generation who has done his engineering in 2015-16 and he's coming back into manufacturing or joining his father's business, they are far more susceptible. But in terms of adoption for a SaaS platform in B2B in India, it requires like infinite level of patience. Right? B2B, again, B2B customers I'm talking about. The consumers are, of course, they are spoiled for choices. They have far many options to use. But if I have to talk about a B2B customer, they often tend to work in the ways in which work has been happening for so many years. And I mean, just think about it. I mean, most of our companies where we worked before, we had an ERP or a SAP, and we all hated. And there would be a bunch of data operators whose job would be just to keep updating information there, but we would ourselves never use it. We would always have somebody to do it for us. That's how. That's the kind of unfriendly platforms people have been used to for so many years. And so to get the right SaaS product out and have the B2B customer transform their procurement process from offline email to a SaaS product requires a lot of patience, because inherently the way we are structured and the way our mindset is, they don't really feel incentivized to move to a platform like this, and they're not able to And in big companies, normally the question is always, can you give me a tangible outcome of doing this? And some of these things really don't have a tangible outcome in the immediate short term future. But in terms of susceptibility, right, like I said, it's a very fertile ground because practically nothing has happened, right? And hence it's very susceptible. In terms of embedding a lot of this technology which is getting built in the current era for B2B customers and suppliers, it requires patience. One product, but having said that, one product which I have seen have massive traction is just a simple SaaS to generate GST invoices, right? That the pace at which it was driven by the regulatory bodies sort of forced people to adopt some of those portals. But other than that, if everything else is constant, it takes some time to make people used to newer platforms and making them addicted to it.
Very good insights. Thank you so much, Vishal. Coming to Prateek. Prateek, you gave us a sense about the strategies which a new startup can employ. You gave us about your own exchange, your own wallets, your own NFT. So, what are some of the marketing strategy which you use to beat the competition? So, we are living in a world of high noise. So, jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai. So, what kind of marketing strategies do you deploy?
We are very unique in the way we are marketing ourselves. So what we do is we follow a top-down approach, which basically mean initially my customers are mostly investors, stakeholders who believe in the idea of a fifth industrial revolution, our Fortune 500 companies, celebrities, so on and so forth. So I just want to concentrate on them for the next 6 months till our mainnet becomes live. So in blockchain, we have a test net coming in the end of November, and then there's a mainnet coming next year. So until the middle of next year, we are only concentrating on ultra high net worth folks, Fortune 500s, governments. We are speaking to government in India. We are speaking to Bahrain. We are speaking to Taiwan. We are speaking to Norway. So most of it is like, these four stakeholders. Now to market our services and our exchange and the entire ecosystem, we are sponsoring the Nobel Peace Prize Forum in December, where most of these people are there. We are sponsoring the World Economic Forum in Davos in January. We are sponsoring the Skoll World Forum at the University of Oxford in April. And we are sponsoring the United Nations General Assembly. So just through 4 sponsorships and marketing, I have access to everybody. Like we raised $21.5 million in just 15 days. So it was very easy for us to raise money. And most of our investors, we've made sure that the cap table just has people who can help us build the project. So once we are done with that, then actually we will go to the masses, which basically mean we open up our services to people. And in that case, we will be obviously having brand ambassadors and Hollywood celebrities and Bollywood celebrities as a part of the platform. We already have a lot of them, but we are not actually publicizing because right now we are not focusing on masses until we launch our mainnet, because so that we don't want to encourage speculation, because in cryptocurrency there's a lot of speculation, right? So we don't want to encourage speculation until we launch our mainnet, so anybody can actually go and access the mainnet, play with it, see how sustainability works, see how the tokenomics work. So we will actually be encouraging that after Q1 of 2022. So until then, we are very focused. We have a very focused marketing budget, which we are actually using for sponsorships and onboarding of a lot of celebrities and governments and Fortune 500s and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Prateek. So you are onto the next level of marketing, which is led very top down. So that's really amazing, and I think a very good insight for our viewers as well. Vandana, what do you are running a social enterprise, right? Enterprise. So I don't see you thinking more in terms of competition terms rather than meeting the objectives and in a sustainable fashion. But still, what kind of competition do you face while operating, and how do you tackle them?
You face.
Vandana, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm here. Are you able to hear me?
yeah. I was asking about if
Yeah.
you face any kind of competition, and how do you tackle that competition?
Competition. Yeah, so for us, competition is a beautiful world. Okay. Actually, it's so important. It's actually very important for competition to start getting into the woman driving space, because that brings us more visibility overall, right? Like I said, in 133 crore population, there are hardly 300 women who are professionally driving. So for us, as our industry, competition is good for us. Okay. The other thing that really works well with the competition is that the demand is so high. So rather than fighting with each other, we are actually collaborating. So I collaborate with women cab companies in Bombay when my clients move from here to Bombay. I collaborate with women cab companies in wherever across the world. It's actually become a very collaborative space rather than a competitive space. It's actually a beautiful thing that has happened to this industry. So I'm not threatened. I'm excited about competition. I'm like, okay, now my client goes to another place and there's somebody going to serve them there as well. There's
Right.
just so much demand. For your understanding, being that very small company that we are, uh, in February 2020, I will say pre-COVID, our Bangalore. It was waitlist. So we are blessed with waiting clients, but it's not possible to serve all of them together. So the only way to serve them is through collaboration.
Understood. That's very well said, Vandana. So, coming to Rahul, you gave us a very good insight about how you are creating an exclusive platform, and enabling brands, and having your own platform rather than competing with others. So, the tech world has a monopoly of platforms. We have Facebook and Google. One of my clients had raised $20 million from Astro Group Malaysia. They were a consumer B2C company, and they burnt 12 million out of the 20 million on Facebook and Google, and the company had actually eventually closed down. So, what is your view on tech innovation that is not associated with these companies, like the likes of Facebook and Google's, the big ones?
Uh, can you rephrase the question? I
I
didn't
mean,
get it properly.
are they really innovating, or are they, they have so much of financial bandwidth that they have a reason not to innovate and rather kill innovation? So, between them, Facebook and Google, they buy out hundreds of companies every year, and one of the reason is so that they erase the competition. So, do you think that that is stifling innovation?
I can give my opinion. I don't know what what their plans are, but I can give my opinion.
Sure.
So it certainly hurts when they try to close the competition. But then again, this is how capitalism works, right?
Right.
They, and this is the world we are living in. So we'll have to work around that. So there are proposals to divide the larger companies into smaller companies so that they can then the competitions then there will be competitions. But I believe, yes, if they acquire and close the company just to kill the company, it has been happening, and it will go on. But this is how it is. But again, let's say Amazon is there, but Flipkart is also there. Two large companies are still there, In fact, multiple companies, in fact, Reliance is also coming into the field. Tata is also coming into the field. So now the competition is there, but the smaller players has died down. If you compare in tech world, let's say I'll just take a simple example of our case. uh, we are growing rapidly. We are growing exponentially. We have 50 million users right now, and we will continue to grow on because we have figured it out. For example, we don't pay anything for marketing. We don't invest anything for marketing because we have figured out a growth hack to get the users. Similarly, we have figured out how to generate the revenue. Similarly, there are multiple things that we have been figuring out which are helping us sustain and fight with likes of Google and Microsoft. So if the entrepreneurs has the guts to fight against the larger ones, or if they have the strategy to do that, then they will be able to achieve it. If they don't, so so Google cannot just come and acquire us. They cannot handhold us. We have to say that we want to get acquired, right? It means if I'm facing problem, then only I'll go ahead and get acquired by someone. Why would I get acquired otherwise? Or there can be another reason. For example, if entrepreneurs just want to earn the money and want to get an exit, then this can happen. So it's also an entrepreneur who are getting acquired.
Right. So, very rightly said, everybody can create a niche. So there is enough market available to create your own niche with barriers to entry like intellectual property, and if you want to sell, then only you will sell. So, very well said, Rahul. Now, coming back to Vishal. Vishal, two questions. We are in the last 5 minutes, so just a quick one. What is your
Sure.
what is your view on the challenges you faced when you started your journey to modernize the Indian supply chain and manufacturing industry? A quick one.
Rejection.
Rejection.
Like, I have been building this for last 20 years. Who the hell are you to come and tell me how this can be done? Right? So rejection, lack of credibility, all those things, right? That is where we struggled a lot, and which is why, for us to just take off the ground, it took us close to a year. And we really had to start with, the first products that we built were sort of the kind of products which doesn't require any engineering. We built some of those pans you put on gutters, some of those stuff which like you can get it on a roadside fabricator. Those are the only kind of items our customers were willing to entrust us with. ये तो नॉन फेल है, इसमें तो ये लोग कुछ मखा नहीं सकते. So the biggest challenge was rejection, establishing our credential, what we do. Some of those stuff sort of just kept us under the radar for pretty long, and then very soon we had to complement it by getting some of this engineering talent from market, which slowly sort of elevated our status in the eyes of our customers. And it was only once we established our status to some extent could we go back to them and tell me, this is what we want to do. Can you please partner with us and give it a try?
Right. Very well said. Very well said. It is the weight of other people's opinions which drag us down more than our capabilities. So, very well said. Coming to Prateek. Prateek, I have a very small, quick question, maybe a quick answer. Are there any drawbacks to running a startup in a more socially conscious way? Prateek, you there?
Yeah. So drawbacks, to be honest, I don't think so. I mean, earlier it used to be, but after COVID, it's actually become people are starting to rely the importance of environment more than they ever did it. The importance of health than they ever realized the importance of health, and that's why these stocks of insurance companies have just shooted up. You see most of the companies which were actually working in a sustainable way, if you see their shares, if you see their share prices, valuations, even profitability for is moving in a direction. Even investments, if you see the mobilization of capital towards ESGs, environmental social governance, or the United Nations SDG goals, or socially compliant companies, it's gone up in like crazy. So the valuations have gone up, everything's going up. So I don't think now it's a big bottleneck. There is always well, there will always I mean, I've been a big proponent of the fifth industrial revolution, which actually states that you can actually make more money if you do more good to the world. So I am seeing a drastic shift in the entire economy, the way entrepreneurs want to build companies, the way investors want to fund your startup. So yeah, so I don't think so there's any bottleneck, and in fact I think it will aid you in the process.
Thank you, Prateek. So this opens the whole mind zone of the viewers here, students, and everyone, that you can adopt sustainable, social, environmental, and corporate governance kind of targets in your life, goals in your life, and make a sustainable business out of it.
Yeah.
Coming to
Oh, one more thing I wanted to add here, because there are a lot of people who are actually studying and they're wanting to build companies. When I was starting up, there were so many people who discouraged me from entering the social space, and the reason was people mostly think of the social entrepreneurial space as not for profits or NGOs. That's an absolute biggest myth that you can have, and that's completely false. You can actually, again, social entrepreneurs are people who solve social challenges and then also make money, because if you don't make money, if you're not sustainable, if your financial model is not sustainable, you cannot solve a problem. And grants and are never a solution to solving a problem. You can't solve the problem of education or health or climate by grants, because grants will get over in no time, right? You might have $1 billion, but you'll end up exhausting those $1 billion. So until you have a very sustainable solution which sustains by itself, it's financially viable, you cannot solve a social problem. So whenever anybody wants to enter this space, I think the barrier to entry is pretty low, because there are not a lot of people I find who are doing amazing stuff, because people still have the myth that either you do a not-for-profit or you run a for-profit company, which is against the environment, or that's how you make money. I mean, it used to be the norm back then. Coca-Cola made a lot of money, but it's going to completely change. Like juices will make more money than Coca-Cola's in the future. So you might end up creating a juice brand, which is very healthy, and you can price it at any other amount, like and you people still buy it, right? Like, it's more profitable than a cola. So
amazing, right? Very well said, Prateek. Thank you so much, Vandana. Same question to you. You are, into a startup which runs in a very socially conscious manner. You have social goals over there. Are there any drawbacks to running this kind of a startup?
Yeah, same thing like how Prateek was just mentioning. Everybody thinks that social business means गरीब वो जनता का business जाओ एक कटोरा लेके जाओ kind of thing. No, it's not that way. I really think that, and I think especially after COVID, people have been more conscious about socially based businesses. It's really opened up our eyes somewhere. I definitely feel that it's a good space to be in. And yes, you have to be sustainable. Grants will not get you. Yeah, grants do come in. I mean, I actually run a hybrid, so I also have an NGO where I do receive CSR grants, and it helps me. Definitely, it helps me. But it's a balancing act, between grants and between actually making a sustainable business. So and like he rightly said, if you're not going to make money, you're going to just your steam is going to run out. So I don't think any social business can work until you're really making it as a profitable venture. And that's how, even like I earlier also said, we survived because everything is your unit economics for us. That's how we survive. It's not about how much funding, whether funding comes in, doesn't come in, we still have to survive.
Right. Thank you so much for those words, Vandana. Coming lastly, Rahul, one very quick question to you. You have created differentiation in your product and against the likes of established players like Google Keyboard and other options. So this differentiation, which comes, which takes time and effort, and it takes a lot of patience. What are the financial rewards in today's time of creating a differentiated product which works well in the market in terms of uh, monetary success and your other goals in life?
Uh, it takes time. I would not say it takes time. I would say it depends. It depends on how fast you are easy to how fast you are able to understand the nerve of your user. So what user wants, if you are able to provide it to them, uh, they will pay you for that, and they will use your product for that. So ultimately, everything is problem solving. So even sometimes users doesn't even know if the problem exists or not. For example, when Uber came, we didn't know that we wanted an app which will book a cab for us. So something the same thing happens with Airbnb. So getting to the state where you have where you are building something which user needs, it requires multiple iterations. It may take time, it may not take time, based on how many iterations you are doing and how much you empathize with your user. If you're using your own product, if you're facing the same problem that users are facing, it won't take much time. If for example, we have an Android keyboard, and let's say if I start using an iPhone, how would I know about what problems my users are facing? So similarly, getting to that point might take time, might not take time. And Tushar, if you can repeat the second part of the question, I missed.
I'm saying uh, a monetary award is there, that fund guys will chase you, they will give you valuation, but what does it take to reach, which you have beautifully explained. So just your some more light on the same.
Cool. Okay. Funding is something which, yeah, if you have figured it out, then it will show in your stats, it will show in your cohort, it will show in your retention, it will show in the number of users you are getting, it will show in your ENPS scores. And these are the only few basic things which an investor is looking for: good NPS, a good retention, good growth. And it's because it shows that you have figured it out, and then and then you display that I am credible, my product is credible. And you may want to get an investment, may not want to get an investment. If you are profitable, you can still grow. But let's say if you want to grow exponentially, if you want to utilize this on those funds also, let's say if you have 100% growth per annum, if you want to do 1000% growth per annum, you would want an investment so that you can grow faster, reach to a level, and earn more accordingly.
Very well said, Rahul. So we have the example of Zoho, we have Freshworks, which never took money, but they reached the unicorn status. Thank you so much, Vishal, Rahul, Prateek, and Vandana. Now we'll take some questions from the audience. We have another 14 minutes to go. So, Entrepreneurship Cell team, would you like to give some questions from the audience so that our esteemed panelists can answer them?
Yes, sir. So first of all, thank you, panelists. That was really a very insightful and exciting session. And now we'll take the question from the Q&A. And I would request any one of the speakers to take up the questions. So first of all, we have a question by Shubham Chaurasia. How to use marketing as a tool?
So I'm
to get
seeing some
ahead
questions in the Q&A here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Panel.
Vandana, out of all the questions available to the e-cell, they will choose good questions and then direct them to the panel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question is how to use marketing as a tool to get ahead of the competition.
Marketing tools. Vishal, I think you didn't answer this. What marketing tools can you use? You use to get ahead of the competition.
Marketing tools. I think Rahul would be the best person to answer this, I'm sure, because he's directly addressing the consumers.
Sure.
Okay.
Rahul, some
Thanks,
insight,
Vishal,
please.
for the opportunity. So the question is not about marketing tool. The question is about using marketing as a tool to get ahead of the competition. Although I believe in a different strategy. I believe in a strategy where you don't you do not use any tool. You do not use anything to get ahead of competition. You you just get out of the game that I was explaining earlier. Don't play the same game, play a different game. But if you want to talk about some ideas, I can tell you about there are influencer marketing. So let's say large companies if do not use the latest marketing mediums or latest marketing tools. For example, influencer marketing is something that we started way back. Now it's picking up. So you have to be aware about where your users are going. So if you know where your users are going, you can use those as your marketing strategy to get to reach to your user before your competition reaches there. We also do growth hacks. Growth hacks is something which is very specific to your business. For example, our growth hack is when you share a sticker, there's a bubble keyboard watermark at the bottom left corner. So, and our stickers are unique. It has user's own face on it. So, if you suppose send it to your friend will think, how has he created this sticker? Then they'll see the watermark and they will search for it and they will download our application. Growth hack is another such marketing tool which you can use to get far ahead of your competitions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have next question by Orthodeep Mondel. How do you assess the future of NFTs? Moreover, Ethereum transactions aren't very easy for the general public. Do you see the system easing down using components of centralized currency to cut down this barrier?
Prateek, would you like to answer that, please?
Yeah. So what we've done in the Firechain ecosystem is, of course, as you know, like most of the addresses are 16 hexadecimal addresses. We have acquired .web3, which basically means if you have a wallet, if you own a wallet, or if you're doing any transaction. So when you check Ether scans or any scans or BSC scans, when you send transactions over Binance Smart Chain, it's like, /16 hexadecimal, but in our chain, it will just be your name. So it will just be, Tushar or Shriyam or Rahul. So we are simplifying the language of decentralization to make sure it's easy for a layman to understand. That's one of the things. Second is, of course, Ethereum transaction. The gas fee is very expensive. What we've done is our gas fee is way lower in Ethereum. Number two and number three, our transactions. Our ecosystem has the ability to handle 40,000 transactions per second. So it's obviously quicker. So that's why we are a new chain, and we are more sustainable, and that's why we are competitors to Ethereum and Solana.
Thank you, sir. So we have a next question by Abhishek Verma. So he says that I think it's the right platform to ask the query regarding my startup idea. So how to get to the government authorities if someone has a revolutionary idea that would enhance the inefficient government process and solve a societal problem?
I can add my few bits here on the government. So, the government of the day, we have seen some very good initiatives by the government. Startup India, Invest India, we see DPIT. The number of startups registered with Startup India is almost 52,000 now. And There has been a fund of funds and then a funds for accelerators and incubators. So all this is showing that the government is indeed open to a lot of innovative ideas. To my mind, if you want to change some government process, you can create a startup with the limited resources and pitch it to Invest India and pitch it to Startup India, the whole ecosystem, and it will surely be, it will catch attention, and and it can reach the right place. And within this whole Startup India ecosystem, a lot of IAS officers are aligned with it, so they have the necessary wherewithal to guide you to the right department where this change can be thought over, discussed. The practicality of it can be established, and as someone who would have dealt with government quite a lot, I think Vishal can also probably. Vishal, do you have a few words on this in case somebody wants to make changes in the government?
I think Vishal is not present.
Okay, no. So these are my views, and others are free to add to it.
I totally agree with Tasar. There are multiple programs that government is supporting. Government is pushing startups a lot through Startup India program and other programs. There are ways to submit your ideas so that you can even get funded from governments as well. The Gujarat government is also funding on multiple startups directly. Indian government has also started multiple such programs, the central government. But I, my my personal my opinion is that, have you validated your idea? How have you validated your idea? Why do you directly want to go to a government entity? Why haven't you tested it yourself? So you should get the POC done, get it tested, see if it's actually solving some problem. Is it a problem, or is it just something that you are facing and not everyone else is facing? So these questions needs to be answered before you take steps and start talking with government agencies. You must ensure that the problem that you want to solve actually exists. And it's not just about idea, it's also about execution. So I can create a Facebook. I have a team which can create a copy of Facebook. Does that mean it's going to work? It's going to be as famous as Facebook? No. It totally depends on execution. So even if you have an idea, execution matters. So get the proof of concept and start executing. See if it has value or not. Then go to government.
Okay.
Well said, Rahul.
Thank you, Tushar sir and Rahul sir. That was very insightful. And we'll take the last question of the session. So it's a question by Gajendra. He asked, when is the right time to start thinking about competitors in a startup journey?
Rahul, you should answer this, please.
Can I answer this one?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Or should we focus?
No, please.
On
Vandana, please go ahead. Hello, Vandana.
Vandana, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to address this question where somebody said, do you check out? Yeah, are you here? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we are all able to hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear you, Vandana.
Yeah, so I wanted to address that question somebody's asked about. She wanted to answer the question, which was about, somebody had asked about competition. Do we see what is going wrong in the competition, or do you actually look at having a totally new product over there? I would suggest there are two ways to do this. One thing is, what is lacking in the competition becomes your space, and that becomes your collaborative space. Then you're not fighting with somebody. You have a solution which they don't have. And that's how you fit into the space rather than taking a very big competitor head on. So find out what is missing. Like, let's say for the cab segment, right? I'm in the woman cab segment, and Ola and Uber are here. They have all the money in the world, but they have not succeeded in the woman cab space, right? So while everybody is using Ola and Uber, there is a woman clientele who would have preferred to use a segregated transport. And that's how I fit in. It complements the space rather than taking your competition head on. Today, Ola and Uber will look at acquiring me at some point of time, that, hello, once she's sizable enough, let her fit into my bucket and, merge together. So it's the way you look at opportunity, rather than fighting the big giants and, मगरमच्छ से बैर मत करो, उसके साथ प्यार मोहब्बत से रहो, is the way I would put it.
May I add into that? Okay. So, thanks for that. I totally agree with you. In fact, why would someone go ahead and create a replica of something which already exists? So let's say if there's a pie and the pie has been captured, why would you go ahead and fight with someone who has already captured the pie? If there's a pie, if there are having competition is very healthy. So let's say if there are 10 startups trying to solve the same problem, it means the problem has not been solved. It means you can go ahead with your own idea to solve the same problem. At that time, competition is healthy. You should always so to answer the question, when should you go think about competition? You should think about competition even before you start thinking about your own idea. Competition analysis is the first step. You have to figure out the problem, then you have to see who all are trying to solve the problem, why have they not been able to solve the problem, and the problem is unsolved. Then you solve the problem in your own way. It should not be just a copy of what others are doing. It should be your own solution. Then let's say there are 10 startups trying to solve a problem which is a pie. Everyone has occupied 2-3% of the pie. Then there's a probability that one of the startup will be able to solve the whole the problem in a very good way and try and capture the whole of the pie. So thinking about competition is something that is the beginning. You should do it even before you start working on your own POC.
Well said, Rahul. Well said, Vanna.
Thank you, speakers.
Thanks.
So in the end, so here is the end of the session, and I, on the behalf of Entrepreneurship Cell IIT Kharagpur, would like to extend a hearty vote of thanks to all our panelists for sharing their experience with us and providing insights into the world of startup. We are extremely grateful to all the panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules to be the part of EAD LSM 2021. Okay, so we have one more. So before concluding, I would like to tell the audience about Empresario, the annual business model competition organized by Entrepreneurship Cell IIT Kharagpur. ECell is always searching for innovative and enterprising ideas through Empresario. Empresario provides a platform for students to get excellent professional mentorship from our experienced and distinguished mentor pool, and to showcase their ideas in front of venture capitalists, angel investors, and industry leaders to get a chance to win worth 50 lakh rupees. Finally, I would like to thank everyone for attending today's event. Do check out the Entrepreneurship Cell.
Are there some questions we haven't answered?
Yes, ma'am, but like due to time constraint, we would like to end the session at the moment. Yeah, so like finally, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's event, and like do check out like Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn pages. And thank you once again. We hope to see you again in our next event. Thank you.
Thanks, Shyam.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Vanna.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Shriyam. Thanks, Prateek. Thanks, Ayush.
Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you, Abhitans.
Thanks, everybody.